for Friday, February 3rd at 8 a.m. to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bear.
Present.
Commissioner Walls.
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Commissioner Duckham. Commissioner Pileski. Commissioner Willis.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Snow. Chair Shotwell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comment. Each individual will state their name and have 3 minutes to address the board. You may only address the board once under this public comment and opportunity and may not yield your time to others. Board members will not debate nor answer questions at this time. Public comment is now open. I see no public comment. Entertain a motion for the January study session minutes.
So moved. Or.
I have a motion and support. Questions or corrections? Seeing nor hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, duly carried. Administrator Controller Overton, unfinished business. Please go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. We're going to start off with a strategic plan. Our consultant at Planning Next is not attending this meeting. The expectation is that they will be at our Tuesday night meeting. Today, what we hope to do is review, take input, discuss, make some changes if necessary, and of course, and answer questions we can't answer. Of course, Planning Next would be in a position to make sure they can answer them at our Tuesday night meeting, in which we expect to hopefully approve the thing. And the process is a little different than every strategic plan I've ever done, to be honest. I'm not sure I actually like it the way it works, but I think in the end it'll give us a good outcome nonetheless. And the process, what I mean by that is, the process is that they went out and talked to more than 1,000 people across the county, did lots of surveys. I know at least 100 of our employees were also in contact and part of the process with them, and kind of determined what were the needs, what were the expectations of the community as a whole, and our employees as well, as far as where they expected the county to be organizationally and across the broader spectrum. With that said, the Planning Next folks went ahead and put together the strategic plan based on all that information as to what they believe, or what they heard, I should say, across the county. And that's the document we have in front of us. Where it goes from here is the board needs to take a look at it and decide, are those things on there in alignment with what your thinking is and what the expectation is of the county organization, which I think, generally speaking, they all are. It's the thing about strategic plans, once you do one, as some commissioners have pointed out to me, they don't change a whole lot from year to year or every 10 years, because people are the same. They want a nice, safe place to live and work, and they want good things for their family and parks and all those sort of things. So, of course, those are all going to be on there, as one would expect. Where we go now, though, is once the board ultimately decides that this plan is in our way of thinking and what we believe are important, the county department heads, elected officials, county staff, we will be working on measures. So we'll be looking at how do we implement, how do we move forward, and what kind of measures, I use the word measures, how do we measure performance and progress is what I'm saying. So, and there's things, how many whatever transactions, and it depends on what department to what you're measuring. So we'll work with all the departments and elected officials to determine how do we measure that we are actually, as an organization, moving forward with the strategic plan. How are we accomplishing the goals as outlined and prioritized by the county commissioners? Now, once we establish that internally and do the math or do the work on it, and we do have a start on it already, as well as we received measures from Planning Next that are very typical and common across the industry and so forth. So they provided that base for us to work with. But we'll come back with all that measurement, all those measures, to this county commission and say, here's what we believe we need to pay attention to determine whether or not we're moving forward towards the goals that you've outlined. At that time, the county commissioners need to look at those measures and make your own determinations to what you believe is appropriate. If you think something is missing, by all means, we would want to add that. Or if you think, oh, that's over the top. Because there is a trade-off with any and all things of measures. Sometimes you can spend a whole lot of time and resources trying to measure something, and at the end, no one cares about, or it doesn't really make a difference. You know, I mean, you got to pay attention to what you're trying to measure. At the same time, we need to be careful of the measures, because it's like the old saying, what is it? Teachers teach to the test. I mean, if our measures are measuring X, Y, and Z, guess what? The employees are going to be working on X, Y, and Z to the perhaps exclusion of other things that aren't necessarily being measured, but may be important. And so we need to be cognizant of that and careful and how we develop the measures and when you're looking through the measures, that sort of thing. So the other important thing to know is, before we walk into this, is it is not at this time critical that the board prioritize every element in the strategic plan. A more traditional model, as you guys have been through before, we do a lot of that. We put our little dots on it, all that sort of thing. But in this type of model, the way they put it together, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the county commissioners every time we do the budget. So every year, all of our budget proposals should be measured, or should be stood up against the strategic plan. Is this moving us forward based on what the plan says? Will this allow us to fund and therefore accomplish some of the measures? So you'll be prioritizing annually. It's not a one and done. You do it every year, taking a look at where you are and with the measures and all that sort of thing. With that said, though, do we have it up, the actual plan up itself, if we could put that up on a screen? And I thought, I'm sure you've all had the opportunity to look at this and make some notes and so forth, and we could talk about those questions and notes. And again, what I can't answer, I will. What I can't, we'll either get an answer before the meeting or have Planning Next address it at the meeting. With that said, the floor is open. Mr. Chair, if you would run the questions.
Commissioner comments? Commissioner Bear?
Thank you, Chairman. I have several comments. The first comment I'd like to make is their presentation here talks about dual plans, how there's the Drive Jackson plan, and then there's the Jackson County strategic plan. And the Jackson County strategic plan focuses on how the county's work feeds into Jackson Drive. I don't like that orientation. It sounds like Jackson Drive thinks the county commissioners are subservient to them. We don't answer to them. They're not elected officials. They're not an official body of anything. They're a bunch of businesses that have their own group. That's a good thing, but I don't like this perspective that kind of indicates that we are subservient to them. If now is the time to get into some of the content, I can do that. An overall question is that once this plan is adjusted by the Board of Commissioners and approved, what is it that we will post on our county website for citizens to look at? The format of things that was presented to us in the strategic plan is not a format that is, in my opinion, appropriate to be putting on our on our website. When you look at their plan, 1.1, economic promotion, off to the right is a little box that talks about, pardon me? I gotta slide back to read this, my light's out. I'm in the dark again. So if you get to economic promotions, 1.1, can you scroll down to that? Well, it's their page 15 on their presentation. Off to the side, we've got some little box there. Talks about the Michigan Works, interesting information. But when we present our plan on our website, that box doesn't mean anything. I personally don't want it there. If you go to the next page, 1.4 housing, I got comments on some of the information, but we certainly don't need to put on our website a picture of a house somewhere or a picture of the, so there's a bunch of stuff on here that I don't think is necessary. Now back, December 19th, Mike Overton emailed all commissioners a copy of the Jackson County Strategic Plan recommendations. I think what Administrator Overton presented is far better format, a superior format to what we are seeing on the screen. What Overton presented December 19th is the same information, the same bullet points. The fluffy stuff, the other pictures are gone. I don't think they're needed. Economic development, it adds the goal, a strong community. Well, that's not in the goals, are not in the presentation that's on the screen. So what we are going to put on the website ultimately, I think needs to really look like Administrator Overton presented to us. It's the same content, far better format. So I'm strongly supporting what Overton had presented to us.
If I may, you're on the wrong page. Looking at the plan from Jackson, correct? Mike? Page before,
No,
pages before are ours,
No, I think he's looking at the strategic,
overall document.
yeah, the big strategic plan, the most recent document, and it is a document with fluff, with pictures and all that stuff. It's a presentation, which is typical of these kind of things. The working document is what you're talking about, you know, what we will work with. When I print these things and when I'm discussing it with department heads and elected officials and the like, we won't be printing all these pictures. We'll be printing more of a nuts and bolts, let's get down to the work. This here is more of a for the public's purpose, looking at it, reviewing it, visual interest, you know, those kind of things in a presentation to make them want to look at it further.
Well, I'm looking at the same document. That page you got up on the screen is the page I got printed here. So yes, I'm looking at the exact same document. And this is a format that I would not want us to post on our website saying this is our county plan. I'm saying again, what Overton gave us on September 19th is a plan that I can get behind, a format I can get behind. It's the same technical information, it's just presented in a much better format.
Yeah, generally, Tony, we would have both. You know, you got the presentation that they give, it's got the fluff, and then there'll be the working document that, like I say, myself and the department heads and elected officials and the like would be working from and discussing, and that'll be on there too. So you can have both on there. It doesn't cost us anything to have it on a website.
Well, I'm just saying we don't need a working document that includes items that includes a bunch of photos that serve no purpose. And they've got attached boxes from Akron, Ohio. We don't need that. They've got attached boxes from other organizations around the country, other Strategy in Action, Columbus, Ohio. We don't need that box in our strategic plan. I don't care what they're doing in Columbus. So what's scrolling through on the screen is not what I would support for adding to our county webpage to let citizens know what our strategic plan is. So getting into some of the content of it, 1.1 economic promotion, 1.1.2 continue business retention and expansion on manufacturing. Well, the box they've got to the right of that says that only 3% of the people that went through apprentice programs went into manufacturing, where 76% went into construction. So I think we need to look at some of these. If only 3% of the people who went through the apprentice programs went into manufacturing, that to me, that says that does not need to be our number one focus. 1.1.3, support site acquisition, readiness, and promotion. I would like to know what has the new business attraction to Jackson County been on, like developments on County Farm Road. Millions of dollars were put into that site development to make it construction ready for other businesses to move in. That the sewer, the water, the gas, the electricity is all there ready for them. And at the end of that project, the county was asked to put in over $1 million of taxpayer money into that. And we did that in the interest of getting more businesses coming to Jackson. So I would like to report back on developments like that. What was the business attraction? And if it's just a local business that moved to a different site, that's not attracting new businesses to our community. So I'd like a report card on that. 1.2 workforce development. All four of these things are, how is the county going to do this? Coordinate workforce development activities with Accelerate Jackson County. Well, what's the county going to do that?
If I may, Tony, that's good questions. Some of us asked ourselves similar questions. We will be working with all the partners, department head, elected officials, and everyone to determine what the measures are. Can we actually move the needle with that particular activity? And it may be that it's beyond our realm of authority, and we can't do it, but we can work with someone else who does have more influence in that area and support them in their effort to move it forward. At least that's kind of the thinking on here. And we're looking here is, what you should be looking at here is a high level. Do we agree that we need to, improve our infrastructure coordination or workforce development or, economic promotion of industrial parks or whatever the case may be? And then, like I say, we'll come back with what we think are our key indicators, measures of whether or not we can move that needle and something to look at. But it's not necessarily today where we would try to tell you, here's what we need to do to enhance coordinating workforce development activities. But but is it important? Does the board think it's, something that's worth pursuing? I guess is really what I'm interested in, Mr. Chair.
Well, it is important for the county, but is it a function of the County Board of Commissioners? I don't think so. And where's the money?
Commissioner Bear, another commissioner would like to speak. Are you willing to yield?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll be very brief to Commissioner Bear's question. I think part of what Accelerate Jackson does is exactly what you're stating. Secondly, I think it is also a responsibility of some regard to the county commissioners. Myself and Commissioner Snell serve on the Workforce Development Board, where we're seeking grant dollars and supporting the workforce development of Jackson County. So I think that there is some responsibility to that.
Well, how much workforce development has been accomplished? How many new trained employees have you
I
educated?
don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can tell you that Commissioner Snell and I work very hard to seek out grant dollars in support of Michigan Works, and we do all that we can to create and to sustain the workforce in our county.
Good, thank you for that effort. That's needed. A lot of these things are good ideas, they're needed. To me, most of these fall into two categories. It's not a function of Board of Commissioners, or it's something the county's already doing. Many of these, I've just put a check mark. Yep, we're doing that. Housing. We talk about the number one, 1.4.1. Coordinate with local and regional partners to support home repair. Well, we did that. We received a $400,000 grant to do that exact thing. Well, we thought we received a grant. We partnered with Community Action Agency to do that. And then the whole project fell through the cracks and we got nothing and we got to start over. So if we do this again, which I hope we do, we need to learn from our current failure and make sure it doesn't happen again. We need to do it better. We've done it and we have failed. It's worth doing again in a better fashion. Is your microphone on?
Another commissioner would like to speak.
Still on, Tony.
Another commissioner would like to speak. Commissioner Pileski.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. To the question of whether the county has dogs in various fights, I think we do. And I would note that in the past, we have supported improved education in Jackson County, even though we don't run schools. I think, and if you look at housing and education, the educational attainment of our population, those are important things that we don't have perhaps direct activity in, but it's important for our population to be successful, to have good and affordable housing and to have educational attainment, whether college or technical school, whatever it is. Those are important things, even though we don't directly deal with them. I think they are important for us to support so that those who do have direct involvement with them can be more successful, and therefore our county can be more successful. And thanks, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to comment.
May I continue? Should I start off saying I have many questions? Thank you. Under 1.4 housing, 1.4.3, implement a robust uniform housing assessment process with all local assessors. Again, I'm not sure that's a county responsibility to go to the township assessors. They're not in county employees. We shouldn't be telling township employees, township assessors what to do. Local assessors, I have a perspective there that assessed values keep going up and up and up and up, and taxes go up and up. And we have people that are on fixed incomes that are losing their homes because they can't pay for everything. Now, a year ago about this time, my Social Security payment went up a little bit. My township taxes went up greater amount. So all through 2025, the money I had was less than the money I had in 2024. Because what little increase there was in Social Security, more than that was taken in property taxes. And that's local assessors pushing. One way townships and the county can get more money is to keep pushing the assessed value up. And I think it's going up too high, too fast. And for me, it has put me behind financially. 1.4.6, the land bank, as I recollect, most of a lot of meetings of the land bank were just canceled this last year. They had no meeting. Land bank's a good idea. We need to be more active in that area. Instead of canceling meetings, do something. I'm glad we have commissioners on the land bank. 2.1, law enforcement recruitment. Okay, number 2.1.1, yeah, we're already doing that. 2.12, we're already doing that. 2.13, where's the money gonna come to do that? So we're getting input here about we should do many things that, yes, the sheriff is already doing them. And 2.2, crime prevention and influence. Prevent crimes through education and deterrence. 2.2.2, prevent crime through.
Commissioner Bear, we've read this document. You don't need to read it to us, sir.
Okay, then I will just tell you, 2.2.1, I don't agree with it. 2.2.2, where's the money coming for that? 2.23, this is just poor logic. What it says here won't happen. Do you want me to tell you why, or you just want me to tell you my opinion on it?
Well, I believe we have professionals who do this job, and they're sitting in the audience right now, and they're getting ready to explain it to us. And while I believe you to be a qualified county commissioner, I don't believe you're a qualified law enforcement officer to enforce our 2.2, crime prevention and enforcement. I believe they are, and this is coordinated through them. They sat on this committee with us and helped us write these documents, and I believe that they would work hard to write goals that they could attain, not do things that they cannot attain.
I agree with you.
Okay?
But some of these, I don't believe all of these came from our law enforcement community. There was citizen involvement in a lot of this. So I'm going to go into 2.2.3. Sponsor firearms safety programs to prevent gun violence. Well, safety program teaches people how to properly handle guns, how to properly use them, so you don't have accidental discharge. You don't have accidental death. And so if you're teaching kids or adults proper gun safety, they're already the good people taking that class. They don't prevent gun violence. So the criminals that roll up in somebody's house and get up and shoot the people on the porch, kill them, injure them, taking a firearm safety program isn't going to stop them from committing those crimes. Uh, 2.3.1, that's a millage issue. 2.3.2, I think that's done. 2.3.3, where's the money coming for that? doing a lot of this, to me, is either, where's the money coming from? Or we're already doing it.
If I may, Mr. Commissioner Bear, I don't disagree with you. There is not enough money to do all things that are in the strategic plan. The county will have to prioritize. At the end of the day, the county commissioners will have to decide what you believe would be the best choice for spending our money, what'll give us the greater impact, that sort of thing, and that will come forth. Annually. In fact, in a little bit, we're going to hear from the sheriff about his capital plan, and I can tell you there's not enough money to do all that either. So we'll again have to prioritize, and that's where it comes in. This board here will make those decisions.
All right. 2.5, law enforcement recruitment. You've got 7 different bullet points here, 6 of them. This is part of what I like about a local law enforcement. They're already doing this stuff. That's part of what I like about them. Number 6, where's the money coming from? Health education and awareness. I think the first 4, our county health department's already doing it. Number 5, where's the money coming for that? Health assistance and affordability, 3.2. I think the health department's already doing every bit of that. So I'm seeing as I go through this, a lot of things that our county departments are already doing quite well. So this isn't a lot of new ideas. And so our plan is then to pretty much keep doing what we've been doing.
As is often the case, and I think we had some commissioners object to it in the very beginning, why do a strategic plan? Because we already have a strategic plan. We're already doing all these things. And yet at the same time, every so many years, in fact, I kind of envisioned with the 4-year terms now that, we're doing this now. After the next board gets elected, the board should kind of, take a look at the plan, say, hey, can I buy into this? Does it still look good to me? And if so, they just say, okay, we're going to just reaffirm the plan. But in 4 more years, now you're talking about 8 years since we've talked to the people. Do I anticipate things changing? Not really, because again, people are the same the world over. They really are. They want the same things, good things for their family and, all those things that are normal in my mind. But at the same time, the process is important. It's process, meaning you go out and you talk to people, because you're not only asking their opinion, but they're also understanding that, hey, as elected representatives, they're elected representatives, that you care about what they think and what they don't think and all this sort of stuff. So it's about process. This is not a lot different than our last plan. In fact, every plan I've done in 35 years are more or less the same. I could do it off my hand, but without process, I can't necessarily have the people's buy-in or necessarily understanding, because a lot of understanding comes from also being part of that process in the whole situation there. So I don't disagree with you. We're doing many, if not all, these things, but if they were not in the plan, well, then the things that are in the plan, we start teaching to the test. Next thing you know, we're doing those things, and we're maybe not doing some of the things that were successful in the past. What we want to do is continue to do what we do well and successful. And if there's some nuance or something we can add to that to enhance it, we should. Or a way to technology or something that makes it more efficient, we should. Which does potentially free up. There's lots of different ways to go about things, and I think it's important that the county commissioners, again, review the process. I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's much of what we already have, yes, and yes, we're already doing it, but we still need to take that time and review it. And with with the 4-year terms, I'm thinking probably every 8 years you need to be really kind of going through the process, even though no one wants to spend the money, and I get that, but I do think there's value there. But that's for a board in the future to determine. At this time, what we just need to do is If you're generally in agreement that, hey, these are things we're doing and these are good things we should try to do, the question is, can we afford to do it? Well, that decision hasn't been answered or hasn't been made yet. We'll look at it internally with everyone and say, geez, can we really do this? And if we do this, we can't do that. And then we have to bring that back to the county commissioners, and you guys got to decide, what's important, what we should prioritize and what we should do, is my thoughts. Thank you.
Well, I'd like you to take a look at 4.1 Arts and Culture. This is something that's not a county function. These comments appear to me to have come from some local artists that want grant money. They're just asking us to give them money. This is not, I would like to see 4.1 Arts and Culture stricken totally from this. It's not our function. 4.2 Community Events.
So, wait, Commissioner Bear, I have a question for you. So the coordinating the arts that we're doing on the Falling Waters Trail that is no expense to the county and are being gifted to us by private individuals, you're saying we should throw that all away?
No,
Because you
not
don't
at
like
all.
it?
No, not at all. What is being done through parks, that's 4.2 Community Events and Engagement. These are things parks are already doing, and I like it. If someone wants to put free artwork along the hiking trails, cool. I support that.
But you need to put it as a priority in your plan, so when you go to the state of Michigan and you tell them that you're doing this, they can see where you're doing it, so that way they can coordinate it also. It needs to appear in a master plan, just like our Parks and Rec has to have a master plan.
So I agree, 4.2 Community Events and Engagement needs to remain. But 4.1, giving local artists grant money, no, I don't agree with that at all. If they want to do art, do your art. Some of it's beautiful, sell it, make some money on it. But we shouldn't be taking taxpayers' money, giving it to local artists as grants. Your art and your business needs to stand on its own or fail on its own. It shouldn't be supported by my and my neighbor's tax dollars. So 4.2 I agree with, we're doing it. 4.1 I wanted to see gone. 4.3 Parks and Trails. Just about all this we're already doing. We got a great Parks Department. They're doing a good job of this. 4.3.8, that's a function of the schools, not the Parks Department. Data and technology, the first three, I think we're already doing it. 5.1.5, I've asked for this many times, and it hasn't happened. So I'm glad somebody in the community added this to it. Uh, 5.2 Infrastructure and Transportation. Some of this
Commissioner
we're
Bear?
already doing.
Commissioner Bear? Commissioner Bear,
I'm listening.
may I walk back to 5.1.5, please, that you think's a good idea? Improve the website, design and continue to keep information up to date. Are you, oh, hold on. Are you willing to fund that? Are you willing to take money from somewhere else and pay for a coordinator to do that? Because that's a job. That's not, what you're asking for is a job. You're asking for us to expand FTEs to put a person in charge of that.
I disagree. We, at our January meetings, I brought the list of all of the county boards and commissions,
Yep,
and I highlighted several that
Yep.
were of interest to me. I wanted to attend their meetings. But our website, the people on those committees isn't even up to date. On our website, certain of
So
those
do you-
committees,
do
their
you-
terms of office expired 4 years ago.
do you believe that that stuff is spontaneously put on the website, or does a human being need to enter that information?
Of course, a human being needs to enter it.
Okay, that's a job. So now I'm taking priority from something else and putting that person, if we're not adding an employee, to doing that work. So
Okay,
now you're going to have to fund it from somewhere. So that means you're going to have to expand your FTEs. So you're willing to give information technology in the county another employee.
I don't think it'll take another employee. I disagree with that aspect of it. And so we should add to this one then, where's the money coming from? I've said that on many of these other items. Where's the money coming from?
The money comes from you, Commissioner Bear. You sit here in this room and you make suggestions on what we should do and what we should not do. And then we take money away from other projects and put it on the things we think we should do. That's where the money comes from. We have a certain pot of money and we prioritize where they're going to go. And the commissioners in the past have decided that that's a low priority.
So all the various times I have asked for our website to be updated, pointed out the deficiencies of it. You're saying it didn't get done because this board didn't authorize additional money.
It didn't get done as fast as you wanted it done. It got done.
It's not done.
No, it's getting done, sir. It's getting done. It takes time. Things don't occur magically. It's not a magic.
I
Okay,
understand
it takes an
that.
employee, it takes somebody to sit down and enter all of that stuff and put it on the webpage and make sure that everything works correctly and everything like that. Michael has explained to you that we would benefit from that type of person and the coordination of that type of person and a communications officer. That would be very useful. We in the past had somebody in that job, but because of budget cuts, we removed that position. So we have to make up our mind what we believe are the highest priority. And we've sat here and said that our number one priority for the Board of Commissioners has been public safety, without
Of
question.
course, it should be.
Okay, so do I take a road deputy off the road and put a coordinator in for the web communications officer?
This is typical. I'm making comments about a proposed plan.
This is not typical,
And you
sir.
are turning this into a personal attack on me. You're not commenting about this plan. You're just trying to tell everybody that I'm wrong, which is what you always do.
Sir, I'm not trying to point out whether you're right or wrong. I'm asking you how you want to prioritize things. That's all I'm asking you to do.
Well, according to what you have just said, you should be asking the entire board. How does the entire board want to finance this?
The
'Cause
entire
this isn't
board-
my decision.
The
This is
entire
the
board
board's
spoke.
decision.
The entire board spoke. They voted yes on the budget and prioritized the money that way. You want to go back and revisit all of these again and then find the money for each one of
No,
these.
there you go. Again, your comments aren't about the program. Your comments are about criticizing me. That's kind of what I expected.
Any other
All right.
commissioners like
All
to
right.
comment?
I've had enough personal attacks for the day. I'll stop making comments for the moment.
Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I just have just a couple of, maybe one or two questions or comments, but as I'm thinking through this, I'm wondering if my questions would be better fit for planning next. To their efforts, they have reached out to me several times, and we have gone over a couple of dates or several dates, but their schedule and our schedules just were not linking up, and so we're going to hopefully try to do that again prior to our next vote on this. But very quickly, on the one of our core values that we have at the county is diversity. And so as I read through the strategic plan here, I think the closest that speaks to that is the arts, culture, and recreation. And so as I kind of read through that, I see what the community and those that were asked the various questions, their thoughts on that. And I really don't see, well, just to me anyway, I don't see measures of diversity jumping out at me when I read this. And so I don't necessarily think that we have to put ourselves in position to spend money to show diversity. I think it's just a matter of allowing for various connections with community efforts, churches, etc., and partnering in various ways to help promote that. Again, as we look at our strategic plan, not only is it a plan moving forward on what we're to do, but it also can serve as a marketing tool for the world around us, showing and highlighting some of the things that we find important. And quite frankly, we live in a county that does have some measures of diversity. And so if there is any way that we could insert just a line, I see, well, let me show this. We have 4.2.3, partner with community groups, nonprofit schools, and connect with people through nature. I think if we add some context to that, or maybe nature and something else, I think would suffice my request in that regard. But again, I think that as we look at our culture, as we look at our county, I think that as we look at the plan for that, I think there needs to be measures of ways where people from all walks of life can see themselves. Therefore, that would possibly allow for people to feel more comfortable and feel more ready to call Jackson County their home. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't take too much time up. I know a lot has. Quite honestly, I'm one of the commissioners that voted no spending $50,000 to do this because I don't see much in it that we didn't already know. I don't think this report is something that Mr. Overton and Mrs. Kibitsky, along with the input from the commissioners, could have done ourselves. Most of us have an ear to the communities that we represent, and I don't really see a lot of new things in it. So in the future, I'd rather go that route when we're talking about 4-year terms. The next time we do this, rather than expending $50K on something, I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out at as enlightening that I didn't know already. Second thing I noticed is I do like that they broke down who the participants were in that second report. I would note that it was highly, highly taking into account the city of Jackson more than its population, along with the two larger townships, Blackman and Summit, while drastically underrepresenting rural Jackson County, including the two townships I represent, Leone and Napoleon. Now, whether that's a lack of those communities' involvement, not getting the message out to them, or where the destinations are, I don't know, but I can say they might have got a little more response by including people in the rural areas. So that's something to take into account. The other thing, one thing I didn't notice a lot of, and I was hoping bringing these outside people, particularly from a university background setting like Columbus, was what I hear from the community is that we're an aging population in Jackson, that young people don't want to be here, that we're a town full of boomers with old ideas, nothing for the youth to do except for get into trouble, leading to some of the rising crime in the city and, of course, spreading out to other communities. So I would have liked to see a little more focus on that. I know they talked about the trades, and that's great. And I also saw that Jackson College just recently announced an HVAC program. And, of course, what's going on out at the airport are all nice things for our young people to get into and have a nice paying career. But I'd like to see some type of outreach that we're going to do to because the public sector doesn't bring the private sector. The free market drives it. But to, I guess, recruit, show what Jackson has to offer to get some private sector businesses here that would give people in our community of the age demographic of, say, 19 to 40 more things to do. So I would have liked to seen that addressed more in here. Lastly, with some of the pictures and this being the county strategic plan, I tend to agree with Commissioner Bear. I don't know why a 100 homes project would be in our strategic plan. That's specifically the city of Jackson's. So when we do stuff like that, it should be things that our land bank did or something that the county did. Otherwise, I don't see the need to put those types of pictures in our strategic plan. So thanks for the time to let me comment. And I don't see anything in this that I really disagree with too much. Like I said, it's stuff we already knew and we got to pay $50,000 for. Thanks.
Commissioner Willis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree and somewhat to Commissioner Kennedy. One of the gap that I'm kind of seeing is the equity gap in the plan. I see 100 strategies across 6 goals. Only one of those goals, strategy 3.4.1, explicitly mentions equity. Given that Jackson County, we serve diverse populations, urban, suburban, rural areas that he spoke to, different ages, different incomes, different ethnicities. I think we need a more robust framework that kind of tells how is our service deliveries equitable across Jackson County. So that's one of my concerns for this report. I have some other things as well, but some questions that I need to ask at a different time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Commissioner Willis just took the thunder from me. I was going to mention that as well. But I guess my final question would be to Commissioner Kennedy's point. In 4 years, would there be an option if we look at the strategic plan at that point and we have some discussions and we say, hey, there's not really much we want to change? Is there an option to forego the plan and then push it out 8 years and think maybe revisit it from that point, if that's possible? Thank you. Just was curious about that. Nothing further.
Yours.
Okay, well, thank you for that input. So you'll see this next at Tuesday night's meeting. I would encourage you to speak with planning next. And if you have questions or concerns, by all means, send an email or reach out to myself or Deborah so we can talk to planning next about that and try to see what we can do to make some modifications. At the end of the day, though, the Tuesday night meeting, I would like the board to vote it up or down, straight up. And because once you do that, then I can engage with department head elected officials to move forward with measures and try to figure out what we can afford and can't afford and get that ball rolling. And then probably that's February, March, April, probably April meeting, come back with that information for the board to prioritize and help us work through and get us started, implementation. Because we'll be engaging in budget process here come spring. And, it does start early, budget, so we want to make sure we have those sort of things already crafted so that we can look at them in the context of the budget itself and bring that to the board for consideration. But with that said, I'm ready to move on to the next item, Mr. Chair. The change order number 2, if Blake and Chris, you want to come up and address the board, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you.
Just a brief overview and then take questions, please.
Okay. This is kind of a resubmit. There were some things in there that I wanted cleaned up, and after meeting with Chris, we had a meeting of the minds and updated a couple things throughout there. You will see that the cost did increase a bit because there was payment and performance bond that had to be increased with the overall cost of the project. Oh, sorry. There were a couple things that we had to clean up in this to resubmit it, to get through my filter and how I wanted to see it, and Chris and I met and talked about all those. There were some slight tweaks to different things, page numbers, exhibit numbers, things like that. But for the most part, it's pretty much the same. The one difference is there's I believe it's a $4,000 cost add for the payment and performance bond to be increased with that has to step with each change order. So there's a cost to that. But now the bond matches the total contract price. So again, it's pretty much the same thing you saw before, just with that one change and some slight tweaks to numerical page naming and different things like that.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Blake, I see this as an action item today. Normally, I don't like voting at study sessions. Is it imperative that it happens today instead of?
The reason for that, Commissioner Kennedy, was that we were going to clean up the ambiguities from Tuesday night because of our long meeting. It's already been delayed 3 weeks.
Oh,
We were going to move forward with it tonight.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Bear.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the cost increases was for 9 months delay of the project. Nothing our facilities or Verigy could do. All of that is on the city. They needed to make a decision on how to proceed in the parking lot. And it took them 9 months to do that. And so our contractor had to pay 9 months' worth of renting a mechanical hoist to move equipment. He had to pay 9 months of a storage facility to put the equipment that they couldn't install into. And so the city, because it took them 9 months to make a decision, just remembering back from the attachments that were included last month, they're not included today, we were well over $40,000 of this increase is because of the city's delay. I'll ask our administrator, what can we do to back charge the city for this? That they need to be more responsive. They shouldn't be dragging their feet and forcing the county to spend $40 or more $1,000 on this project. First, how can we back charge them? And two, if they're not willing to pay a back charge, we need to remember our financial loss here the next time the city asks us to work with them.
I don't believe we have any means of back charging them or anything. It's the inspectors have to come out and inspect and have to do their due diligence. And I think they missed a board meeting or two because ultimately it needed the city council approval. And believe me, we pushed on our end, and but unfortunately things happen. They're out of our control, and we surely don't have any authority to force them to pay anything at this point.
Well, waiting for board meetings or city council meetings, there's a lot of city council meetings in there in that 9 months.
Yeah, I don't have any, I can't rationalize why it took so long myself either. I don't understand it, and it should not have, but it did. You guys got any better explanation, Chris? I mean, what am I missing there?
That was a process to get that done. The city had requirements that they needed done first, so Jackson County had to do, and Verigy went and we did those items to meet their requirements. However, there was a couple things that, we had internally with the county. We had the engineer that was working on the parking lot. He left the county, and then we had to start all over again, with that. So there was some I don't like to point the finger at one person because there's always,
So some of the
fingers.
delay was on our engineering staff
Yeah,
on our end.
exactly.
That's fair. I mean, speak the truth, my friend.
Yeah, so
It hurts sometimes, but it is what it is.
Yep. So there was a couple of meetings, I think, that were missed. We had that signed or ready for them to sign, but it wasn't all on the city of Jackson.
Entertain a motion on the Verigy change order number 2.
So moved.
We have a motion and support. Madam Clerk, would you like to post the vote? You want to call it? You want to call it? Go ahead.
Commissioner Bear,
Yes.
Commissioner Walls,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pileski,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Chair Shotwell.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Commissioners.
New business. Michael Overton?
In front of you, I have a resolution from the airport. They are trying to start basically a school, aviation, technical school mechanic. I said, oh, sorry, Juan, I didn't see you were there. But, and Juan needs this for, basically to apply for a grant from the state. So you need a resolution supporting it. Is that the
Yes,
crux
sir,
of
and I
it?
wanted to apologize for coming to the study session to request a decision, but the deadline for this grant has passed already, and I want this application to be as strong as possible. So I'm asking for support from this body in the application for this grant, which will hopefully get us a trade school here in Jackson that will train aviation mechanics locally. And just as a line item here, 20% shortage by 2028 of aviation mechanics in the United States. And this morning, it just came out from the International Air Transport Association that the airlines in the world are expected to increase globally by 4.9% for 2026. In the United States, we're going to remain flat because of the bottleneck between manufacturing, maintaining, and operating aircraft. So we continue to have more and more passengers that want to fly, and we continue to have delays, as Commissioner Kennedy is well aware of, and we need to resolve this bottleneck here. So if I can have support from this board with a resolution, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
We have a motion and support. Any questions? Commissioner Bear?
Thank you, Juan. I like this program. I like your idea. I want to see it succeed. Got a couple questions relative to that. In the resolution, the sixth whereas, it says, this development will need local, state, and federal support. So your cover letter says we're getting $300,000 support from the state. How much will you need locally?
So right now, we are expecting, if the budget at the federal level passes, we're expecting to get a $500,000 grant from the feds for fiscal year '26. This particular state grant will be for fiscal year '27 for $300,000. We have already started the drive to raise local funds, and that's private funds to support the school, primarily in the purchase of equipment. We don't expect any grants from the county at this point in time. However, if the program is successful enough that we're going to need to build a high school size building at the airport to support more students, then at that time we will have to look and see if we can, if we're not able to raise all the funds privately to build the building, then we will have to come to the county. But at this point in time, with these two grants that we already should receive the $500,000 from the feds, and if we win this $300,000 grant from the state, that will be enough to prime this trade school so that it will continue to operate without needing any money from the county.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like this one. Thanks for bringing this.
Appreciate your support.
Further questions? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Commissioner Wolves?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Pileski?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis? Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Bear?
Yes.
Chair Shotwell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Five-year plan, Administrator Overton, Sheriff Judy.
Good morning, everyone. Trust you have an opportunity to look over the staff report on this, which kind of highlights the reasons for the five-year plan that we've put together. A couple of things that I want to point out right off the bat is after some discussion, after some thought that's gone into this, we moved around some of the things. And speaking with Administrator Overton about it a little bit too, we moved the jail over to 2027 rather than in 2026, making some changes to our booking center. And the primary reason for that, for me personally, is that we've put in for additional state money, and I'm in the process right now of requesting federal monies to try and supplant this. I think that we have a good shot at getting some of that. I don't know. We've done this before, and I've come up with a big goose egg, as you know. But the more persistent we become and the more consistent we are with it, I think the better the chances we are of getting something. And I've had some pretty good conversations with our lawmakers, and they're in full support of this. So I feel pretty good about that. And I'd like to make sure that we disperse the money out as best we can. So that's the rationale behind that. Also, there are some other pretty expensive ticket items that I'm requesting here in 2026 that I think are priority as well. And I'll explain that a little bit more further. But I'd like to take any questions before I begin going into it, if you have any. Okay. Sure. Obviously, 2025 is when this plan began. And as you can see, we've already moved through three of the issues in 2025, and I appreciate the support on those. The body scanner, just as an update, has been installed. It is fully implemented, and it is in operation right now. So that is completed. The firearms we should receive probably in March of this year. It takes a little while for the order, as big as it is, to get filled. And then we'll begin our transition into that as well. And the range is an ongoing process, but that doesn't cost us any money. However, we may be looking at about $20,000 in different upgrades with concrete, masonry, and a few other items as well to make it a little bit more user-friendly out there. So moving on to 2026, and the big one here right in the beginning is the Axon contract renewal. If you'll recall, Axon is our source for body cameras, it's our source for in-car cameras, and it's our source for tasers that the deputies carry on them, both in the jail and on the road. That contract, and there's some changes here that I want to go over with you as well. That contract was roughly $765,000 in the beginning, going back 5 years ago for all of that stuff. Essentially what that provides for is continuous upgrades to the equipment as it breaks, and it does, just by virtue of the type of work that we do. So it's always upgraded, it's always replaced for that amount. What we're looking at doing here, and I think this is going to streamline us quite a bit, is upgrading to an AI software platform. Essentially, the AI what it does is a couple of different things. When a deputy is handling an incident, it records everything that's going on. It listens to what the conversation is, it categorizes the conversation, and it actually places it into a police report. It does it very fast, incredibly fast, and with incredible accuracy. In many cases, more accurate than the deputy would have been able to write without it. We've seen demonstrations of it, and I was thoroughly impressed with it. It's not 100%. Of course, you know that there's nothing that's 100% anyway, but it has built-in mechanisms inside of it to encourage and then elicit the deputy to correct any of the problems as well. The deputy can do that really quick and ensure the accuracy of the document. It's fantastic. Blackman Township got it about 4 or 5 months ago and employed it with their officers. And I spoke with Director McIntosh yesterday about it. He said they absolutely love it. I spoke with Prosecutor Kelsey Guernsey, and she said there's absolutely been no issues with it at all. And she said, in fact, the reports are much better now than they have been in the past. So this is what we're moving toward. This is simply how our profession is progressing, and I think it's really important that we consider this as well. In addition to that, they kind of go hand in glove. There's a Fuses technology, and Fuses, I think of it as fusion, where they fuse everything together in a digital platform. So for instance, right now, if there is a robbery that occurs at a gas station, they will have some sort of digital platform that they'll record the things that are going on inside of that gas station. We typically have to wait a day or two, sometimes longer, for a manager, a regional manager, to come down and download that information for us and provide us with that document. With this program, it's different. We get it instantaneously, and we get it into our evidence-based program. That's provided the gas station cooperates, but there hasn't been any issues with cooperation from local vendors. What that will essentially allow us to do is track what's going on criminally in real time. So if you think of large cities like New York City, Chicago, things of that nature, they have something called a crime center. And you're probably familiar with it, you've seen it on television. The old school thought process behind that is when you walk into the crime center, there's 1 million TV screens all the way around, and you got people watching different cameras, you got people taking care of different complaints, different things that are coming in and trying to make determinations, and then employing investigative avenues to address those situations. This is a real-time crime center, but it happens immediately right in front of you. It's AI-driven with the cameras that are already in place. Blackman Township, again, their contract was reissued or redone last year, so they've got this already. My understanding is that the fusion portion of this will begin its implementation process in both Blackman and Leone Townships next month. So they'll go out and start courting the local businesses to have them go on to this program. One of the things that's important about this too, that's necessary for you to understand as well, is that it can also utilize local schools. So obviously in our current climate, we have the threat of school violence. The schools can also elect to plug into this. One of the things that was really impressive to me during the course of the demonstration was just how that works. So for instance, if there is a person inflicting violence inside of a school, we can have real-time camera footage of that person, where they're at in the school, and it can track them all the way through. Huge advantage over what we do right now, which is just go in and seek someone out almost blindly, frankly. But this would allow all of that to occur. Now, there's a ton of other benefits that go along with this, but that, in a nutshell, is what we're looking at. It also allows us to fuse in all of our different data that we have in the county system that we would be purchasing, and place it all into one central location, evidence management-wise, digitally. So it's a big deal for us. Now, the next thing, and it's not on here specifically, but what I want to touch on is our FOIA process, Freedom of Information Act process. We do more FOIAs than anyone else in the county. And it's just because of the job that we have and the need for people to know how things are happening. One of the things that we get requested on a routine basis is our in-car cameras, our body cameras. And in order for us to do that in accordance with the law, with the Privacy Rights Act, we have to have a person sit down and go through meticulously every frame of the body camera footage or the in-car camera footage. Block out names or blur names if they happen to be on a notepad or something in front of the camera. Block out faces, addresses sometimes, different things of that nature. It is a long, rigorous, painstaking process and difficult process. There's been a couple of you who have reached out recently about issues that we've had with setting up appointments or doing different things for fingerprinting services and stuff of that nature. Well, the reason why we have that process elongated like that is because our personnel are constantly trying to fill these FOIAs, and we have a specific time frame in which those FOIAs have to be filled. So it's really hard for us to get that stuff done. So it's this technology that is AI-based, we can go in and block faces, block names, and it can be done in a fraction of the time. Just to give you an example of how that works, it is about 3 to 1 on the length of time it takes to redact a video. So for instance, if there's 1 hour of video, it takes about 3 hours to go through and redact that video. That's why we're so far behind with this. With this system, it can happen almost instantaneously, about 30 seconds for an hour's worth of video. You can go in and block everything, set up your algorithm, punch it, and then it takes care of it that quickly. It actually is longer for them to program what they need to do than it is for the program to run through what they've requested of it. It's an incredible system. It'll save us time, it'll save us money. I think it's a force multiplier in our records division, and it's something that's critically needed. So, what's this going to cost? Now, I didn't touch on the virtual reality training, and I'm happy to talk about that, but I'm going to skip to the chase here because those are the big things that we need. Now, our current contract is about $765,000 for a 5-year period. When we put this together, we tried to make a determination based upon what that contract was. And what we came up with, I think, was pretty fair. Roughly $200,000 to $240,000 a year to have what we currently have in place. However, we had Axon in the day that this was due for submission. Later that day is when we had Axon in. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to update it with the new numbers, and I don't have new numbers, but I do have new guesstimates, if you will. And those guesstimates are significantly higher to have all of these programs in place. And that's what's important for you to understand. So when I say significantly higher, we were paying roughly $153,000 a year to satisfy the last 5-year contract. I expect that to go up by double and then some. When I talked with Blackman Township about their programming, they are paying roughly $350,000 a year for all the AI benefits, all of the programs, including the virtual reality training that I can discuss a little bit more in depth. I think there's some things that we could do with the virtual reality training in concert with Blackman Township and the city of Jackson to try and offset some of the costs associated with it. That's why I hadn't gone into great depth about the virtual reality training, but the other stuff is really important stuff. It's estimated that a police officer spends on an 8-hour shift about an hour and a half in report writing. So that's off the road, not doing patrol duties. It's estimated in a 12-hour shift that it's about 2 hours. So that's a significant amount of time that the police officer is not doing what they need to do. Now, if you add in a serious incident like a fatal traffic crash, unfortunately we have them. If you have another incident that is significant in investigation, such as a natural death investigation, which we have a significant amount of those as well, or anything else that requires an arrest immediately and then the seeking of a warrant, there's a lot more that goes into it as well. The report has to be done, it has to be sent to the prosecutor. There's time constraints that are involved in it. And the police officer is taken off the street a significant amount more time. Imagine having all of the police report done before you even get back to the car. That's how quick this stuff is. And it's better than if they would sit down and actually type it themselves in most cases. So that's why I think it's really important. I think it's a force multiplier for the patrol deputies as well. And what I would be asking in this is that we would use Axon not just on the road, but also in the jail. So we do jail incident reports or JIRs for circumstances that happen inside the jail. For instance, the more serious incidents would be like our overdoses or our suicides. The ones that are completed and the ones that are attempted are significant incidents that require the corrections deputy to write the report as well. If they had this technology, it would be written for them. It would be more concise and it would be better. No doubt in my mind. And that's not a slant against the deputies. It's actually a proponent of the artificial intelligence and how well it works out. Yes, sir.
Does it work to uniform, what I mean by uniform, make all the reports uniform then? So that way, when somebody is reviewing between deputies, you don't get a slanted, I don't mean it to be slanted, but a way a certain deputy writes versus the way another deputy writes. Does it create a uniform pathway for understanding?
It does. Yeah, and I know where you're going with that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. One of the things that was fascinating to me is we were looking at the demonstration. And one of the things that I had a question about was, let's say you have two different deputies and they're talking to the same person. And how does the AI differentiate between the two? How does the AI make a determination? Well, the AI is so smart that it has voice recognition software and it's able to make a determination who's talking and who's not talking. So all of that stuff can get blended together. Now it would be, Deputy A is talking to, person X and Deputy B is talking to person X, and here's the statements that person X made. So it would be differentiated in that manner. However, it would be concise in its platform and how it was done, and it would be uniform, just like you're asking, which I think is huge because obviously what I think is important, you might not think is important. And when that gets put down into a police report, it can skew what people think that the facts are. The AI is not like that. And then the deputy is able to go back over it and then see exactly what has happened and then correct it and make the determination as to whether or not that's really truly what happened. And of course, you've got a digital video of it as well that they can go back over it too. phenomenal. When I saw the demonstration, I was thoroughly impressed as to how well it categorized things and put it into chronological order. So as I said, and I kind of went down into the next bullet, talking about the corrections deputies. That's a significant amount of money too, upgrading them into it as well. I do think these things are really, really important, ladies and gentlemen. And, Administrator Overton and I have had conversations about artificial intelligence and kind of the wave of the future. And here it is. I think we're on the cusp of it right now, but I do think it's really important for us to take a really strong look at upgrading into this. And I will say one thing about Axon. There's been a couple of vendors, and you guys have seen some of the, for lack of better words, hiccups that we've had in some of our technology, specifically that has to do with our sheriff app here recently. I have not been impressed with a lot of the vendors that we've had to deal with. They have been difficult, and their service to us has been lacking completely. Axon is a different animal, and we're paying them a lot of money, and I recognize that. But when we need something, they are right on it. And I've been thoroughly impressed working with them, and wish that everybody was as easy to work with as Axon has been for us. So if you don't have any questions, I'll move on. But if you do, we can also always circle back to it. We are in the process of phasing in-car computers. We have budgeted for that. It's roughly $20,000 a year that it costs us. The plan calls for 6 new computers every year in our cars. The transport van, we have not budgeted for that. We were looking at doing that potentially next year, but as a capital improvement this year, it would be wonderful to be able to do that. The other reason why this is on a 2026 year cycle is because in the beginning here, we were looking at the possibility of having weekenders out there on Channer Road, or placing the booking center out there on Channer Road and beginning that process of putting the booking center out there, and the transport van would have been critical. When I talked to my staff a little bit about moving the transport van to 2027, the discussion led into we need it right now. We have 2 vans. One of them is not working very well. It costs us a lot to keep it rolling. And then so that leaves us with just 1 transport van. And going back and forth from Channer Road, it is important that we have a van that works well for us. We would still keep our van that we currently use as a backup, and we would get rid of the old van that we have. Now, the special response team is currently in the medical examiner's office, and that needs to be moved to make way for some enhancements that are going on with the ME's office. That is something that we've been talking about for probably 2 years, I think. And it's something that's just never really kicked off, but it's something that is important now, today. And so that's something that I think the Capital Improvement Fund would be well served in funding. Now, this one I know will be somewhat controversial, so wanted to make sure that you guys ask any questions you have on it so that I can explain it to the best that I can. And that's the take-home cars for patrol deputies. So we have, as you know, we have multiple take-home cars right now. There are township deputies. Townships purchase the cars, and the township deputies usually live within close proximity of the townships that they work in anyway, and it just makes sense for them to take them home. Frankly, we don't have the space for all of those cars in our lot on Wesley Street, and it makes more sense for them to be able to take them home. It's one of the reasons why we do it. Plus, they're able to use them for rapid response into their townships, and they do that. If we were to implement this system over a 10-year period, the cost would be 0 to us. It would allow the deputies to have the cars at home. There's several advantages to that. One of them is that they can put all of their equipment inside of the vehicle. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but when you're working in a patrol sector, you have a tremendous amount of equipment. It is a rolling office. So you have your rifle. You'll have your go bag for all sorts of different things. Thank you. You'll have your report systems, your reporting systems. You'll have your all sorts of different types of things like flares and traffic cones and different things of that nature that are critical for the deputy to do their job. All of these things are looked at and categorized at each shift. So that takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes each shift. When you come in, before you go out onto the road, after you've received your briefing, in order to get everything up to speed and then go back out in your car. It also requires you to search your car, to go through your car to make sure that there's no damage to it. You check the oil, of course. You look at different things of that nature. All the critical functions that you would normally when you're working with your automobile. So there's all of those things associated with it too. And then at the end of your shift, you have to do that again. Obviously, you have to take everything out. You have to go through it, categorize it. You have to search it again. If you had an inmate or a prisoner in there at some point in time, you have to make sure that they didn't drop anything inside of the vehicle, and you have to make sure that that's all taken care of. So that would be eliminated. Roughly about 30 minutes of time would be saved there. Plus, the way this is done in other jurisdictions, whether it's in Michigan, there's few and far in Michigan. However, the most notable one is the Michigan State Police. They do it. But many, many other jurisdictions around the country have done it. And usually what they do is kind of a modified briefing system. So whenever the police officer starts his shift, he goes into briefing, and the supervisor then explains kind of what has happened before, what is going on, what are the be on the lookouts. If a car was stolen, a person is missing, whatever the case may be, if there's been a serious incident, they go through all of that in the beginning of their shift. That's another 10 to 15 minutes. So what these jurisdictions are doing is the police officers or law enforcement officials inside those jurisdictions with take-home cars will essentially keep those cars and call into service as soon as they get inside of the vehicle, right from their home. So they're immediately available for calls. And then at some point during their shift, they will matriculate over to, and some of them have a set time. Hey, we know that if it's midnights, we know that roughly, on any given weekday, that 11 p.m. there's not going to be any calls, or there's very low volume of calls. So come in then, and we'll coalesce and we'll talk about the ongoings. All of the BOLs, all of the missing information, all the other critical data is sent directly to their computers at the beginning of their shift. So as soon as they sign on, they have all of that information right there in front of them. So all of the other stuff that they need to take care of administratively with the sergeant can happen at a later time when call volume is lower. So those are some of the advantages to it. One of the other things is longevity of the police vehicle. We usually keep cars for about 2 to 3 years, and then we have to cycle them out. We put anywhere between 120 to 150,000 miles on a car, and that's a rough 120 to 150,000 miles. It's a lot of really fast stop and go, and that car is running 24 hours a day typically. So it's really hard on the cars, and it beats them up. Most of the places that have this are seeing that double. So instead of having a car for 2 to 3 years, they're having a car for anywhere between 5 and 7 years. So you get to keep the cars longer, they're in service longer, they're taken care of better. You have one person in charge of maintenance, making sure the oil's changed, and there's a lot of scrutiny placed over that vehicle as well. So those are the cost savings to it. The fleet obviously will grow, and with that, I think that There'll be some challenges in terms of, what we need to do for backups, because as you've seen in the email that I sent you yesterday, we do have accidents occur from time to time. So we will need some backup cars. We typically keep between 4 and 5 right now in our backup fleet, and we would look to continue that. But over a 10-year period, we will be able to transition this in with our deputies in such a way that it wouldn't cost us anything more than the 4 cars that we already purchased right now. So we would ease that in with our deputies. And at this point, if this is something that you think is palatable, we would look at it from the standpoint of who qualifies. Obviously, we have a couple of deputies that live way outside the county. We would not look at giving them a take-home car. They would need to live at least in proximity to the county, perhaps inside the county even. They would have to be a deputy who is off probation. So it would, after their first year of service here, they would then qualify for it. We would have to have some other insurances as well that they are going to take care of the car. Obviously, somebody who's been in a number of accidents or at-fault accidents would not likely qualify for something like this. So there's all sorts of different things policy-wise that we would be looking at too to make sure that we're being good stewards of the vehicles. But this is something that we would look into a little bit more in-depth policy-wise and fine-tune it for our organization. We've looked at a number of them from other organizations already, and that's where we've spawned a lot of the ideas that I just explained to you. So that's kind of what we're thinking globally. The benefits to this that I've already told you, some of them, organizationally, but it's huge for the deputy. And we've had this discussion before about retention of our employees, and it's been difficult. We've lost 86. We've had 86 cycle through here in my time as sheriff, and it's really expensive to do that. Most of them we're sending to the academy. We're preparing to send 3 more to the academy right now. And it's very frustrating for me as sheriff, and I know for the staff, that we'll have somebody come in, they get through their year's probation, and then they're out the door going to another organization. And that's happened on a number of different occasions. I was hopeful when the legislature passed that we would be able to ask them for money for the money that we put them through the academy on. But it's a graduated scale, and I don't know if you're aware of that. We can't ask them for all of that no matter when they leave. So if they leave within the first year, we get 100% of their academy expenses back. If it's the second year, it's 50%. If it's the third year, it's only 25%. And it's only the academy expense, which is typically about $10,000. We've got 70 grand invested into them. So it's a drop in the bucket in reality. And a take-home car would be huge to dangle in front of them as some incentive to stay. And I need to make sure that I point this out. This is something that the deputies brought to me, because I asked them the question, what would help keep people here? And they said this take-home car program. And I think we could do it. Like I said, it's a 10-year idea with the numbers that we have. That's worst case scenario. I think we can do it a lot quicker than that, because like I said, there will be some folks that won't qualify for it. And there'll be a couple of other things that'll be thrown in there as well that I think will allow us to accelerate the process. But that's essentially kind of what we're looking at. Do you have any questions for me on that?
Sheriff, got a question. Take-home cars, if they're a K-9 unit, do they take the dog home with them?
Yes, they do.
I know the state police do that. That way they don't
Correct.
have to house the dog someplace else, so, okay. General question, why do you leave the engines running 24 hours a day?
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit?
What's the rationale behind leaving the engine of the vehicle running 24 hours a day?
So it has a tremendous amount of electronic equipment inside of it with, it's got a full computer, laptop computer in it. It's got a camera system in it, front and back. It also has a radar device in it. All that takes a tremendous amount of power. We have, high-powered batteries in it. But when you turn it off and then turn it back on, if you turn all of the components off, it takes a good 5 minutes or so for that to reboot.
Okay.
So, like when you pull up to a scene or whatever, back when I first became a police officer, they made you turn your cars off, right? It was a big deal. Hey, you save gas and all that kind of stuff. Now, when they pull up to a scene, if they turn that car off and they shut everything down, it's another good 5 minutes before it reboots up. And they're really dependent upon that stuff for dispatch services and a lot of other things.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question about the take-home car policy and how it's going to affect our premiums in our county insurance on those vehicles as well. And then the other thing, I just wanted to note to you that I'm already receiving some feedback from constituents and supervisors after the meeting where you disclosed this information. So my biggest question is the expense of the insurance premiums going forward with all these, one, extra vehicles, and two, leaving to go home at someone else's home.
I'm sorry, what did you say about the second part? Leaving to go home? I don't
Yeah,
understand that.
taking those vehicles home and being stored at someone else's residence.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the question on that?
How is that going to affect our insurance and our insurance premiums?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I saw it as two different things, so I didn't understand you. Okay, I don't have the answers to that, but that's something I can certainly look into. I don't know what the cost would be on something like that. I can tell you that it's negligible right now on how we do it, so I'm not so sure that it's going to be an increase. Of course, with insurance, there's always a way that they get you somehow, way, shape, or form, but I'll have to look into that a little bit further to get you anything hard on it. Thank you, ma'am.
If I may add in, and I too do not have the answer exactly on this, but I would tell you this, that I've been told many, many times by our insurance companies over the years, your premium changes because your experience changes, not necessarily out of hand. So if the insurance companies have experience or in other jurisdictions where when people take cars home, there's more claims, then potentially our premium would go up. Or if we ourselves implemented and had more claims, it would affect obviously our experience rating, and therefore our premium would go up. But off the cuff, without that information, it's my guess would be it's negligible. I had the same situation one time when we installed a high dive in a big pool. Everyone was concerned about the insurance. The insurance guy said, well, if people don't fall off and kill themselves, you'll be fine. I'm like, that's not reassuring, but we'll find out. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to look into that and get you some ideas.
Sure. Well, the other thing is the fleet will increase, so it's going to go up anyway, right? Because you're going to have more cars on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. Anything else? No?
I think, if I may, I think the analysis you're going to have to give us on that is if we keep employees longer, you keep your sheriff's deputies longer, and we don't have the learning curve cost of probationary deputies versus long-term staff, the return could be there. My experience with where deputies or state troopers or city officers, cars appear in driveways, the neighborhoods are very well behaved. is my experience.
That's absolutely true.
I know that when you originally were in your previous career, we looked at neighborhood policing and actually having a house on Chittick that we had officers staying in. And I know we decreased the incident of problems when we did that, when we did community policing and that type of stuff. And I know that in Flint, there is a jurisdictional record also of community policing and what a difference it can make an impact in a community when people are aware that law enforcement live there. And it really does make a very large difference.
I'm happy to look into all that stuff, and I can bring this to you. What I wanted to do was test this to see if it's even something that you're worth entertaining. Because if it's not, obviously I wouldn't go any further and waste my time. But if it's something you're worth entertaining, I'll put all this stuff together. And it may be difficult to make a determination as to what this would affect our retention, but we could probably make some guesses on that. I mean, we could certainly say that if it kept one person, obviously it's going to save us 70 grand, right? So that would be huge. And how does that affect just that one single person in my mind? And the way it's working right now is how would that affect an insurance premium? Would we lose $70,000 because we had, 10 more cars on, or whatever the case may be? So I can certainly do some stuff like that, put that together for you. Perfect. We talked, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say that I think to focus on employee retention is tangential to what we really need to focus on, which is operational improvements. If we were to do this, here is how policing will improve if we have vehicles pre-positioned, if you will, in their areas.
Certainly.
Employee retention may be improved, but that's not the message that you want to, I think, put
Okay.
out there. The message is, we are improving policing all around the county by pre-positioning vehicles in their operational areas, okay? And having our people ready to respond more quickly when things need to be done. So I personally think it's not a bad idea. It's going to be, as I think Margie notes, kind of a public relations management question,
Sure.
okay? Because the rest of the world doesn't take vehicles home, but neither is the rest of the world expected to respond at perhaps a moment's notice to something that's pretty important. So operational improvements and pre-positioning vehicles that's the message in my view, okay?
Yep. And I appreciate that. That I didn't go into that when we did our study. That was one of the things that was absolutely brought up. I kind of glossed over that today. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now with AI and the different things, and you've heard me say it as a force multiplier. That's what this is. We've decreased, how many deputies we have out there, but you see the cars everywhere, and it certainly doesn't feel like that. And I think that's a force multiplier too. And I appreciate that.
If I might, well, and if we don't do what you're suggesting, that means the vehicles end up being aggregated in the downtown location, which is, great for the city locations, but for those of us in the out county area,
Correct.
we look to have sheriff's deputies, lickety-split on the scene as quickly as they can be, and that's, again, I think that's what the focus should be
Perfect.
as we deal with this. And I think that to make the messaging early would be worthwhile, okay?
Got it.
To make sure the public knows, here's what our plan is. Sheriff, Deputy Eric Taylor out on Sears Road, he works that area. There's his car. He punches in, he's on the job,
That's right.
right? He doesn't have to go downtown, pick up a car, do all the gyrations that you mentioned.
Yep.
And then 45 minutes later is back in Hanover Township, for
That's right.
example, okay?
Exactly. Yep, I appreciate that. That's very, very important. And I did gloss over it. I appreciate it. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Any other commissioner comments?
Okay.
Sheriff,
moving-
thank you very much.
Okay. Do you have any, would you like me to go over anything else?
Yeah. We'll go down. We're continuing on.
I kind of felt like I was like, go have a seat. Okay. So you see on here, I added this here. It was kind of a late addition. Honor Guard uniforms. Our Honor Guard is really critical. Let's think in this for capital funds to put this in. I can add it into next year's budget. We had an increase in our Honor Guard assignments here recently, and we have old uniforms. We need to revamp those uniforms. It turns out they don't make them anymore. So unfortunately, we have to redo everything. Honor Guard's really important. They're the ones that go to funerals. They're the ones that do our parades. They're the ones that do all of our other stuff that's really important for community relations. And having that it's between $15,000 and $20,000. And the reason why I know that is we looked into it last year, and the cost was somewhere just north of $15,000, and we're anticipating that those costs are gone up. I don't think it's going to be 20, but I think it could be somewhere closer to 17 or 18 to get them all outfitted. So that's why that is on there. The gun range, we're looking at adding some more shooting lanes out there, concrete-wise. We were able to pour some concrete out there this year. I think it cost us right around $2,000. Is that about right? Right around $2,000 is all that it costs us to put all of our shooting lanes out there. However, we want to put in a rifle pad and a couple of additional enhancements for our shooting range, and we estimate that would be somewhere south of $20,000. A lot of that's going to be dependent upon the donations that we get. The concrete companies have been fantastic in working with us as well. So we've gotten a tremendous amount of concrete out there already for a very low cost of $2,000. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see it. We're still doing some work on it. We anticipate having the berm, which would be on the east side, completed in this spring. I just talked with John Bailey about it last week, and they're ready to go on it. Once that is all done, essentially the range itself will be completed. There'll be some other things that I'd like to do to it. I'll speak to that here in just a moment when we get to the next year. But essentially what that would do is give us the ability to shoot almost 360 degrees all the way around, which is huge. And again, this is, I will go on record and say this is the safest range, at least police range, in the that I've ever shot on. It's absolutely fantastic. Huge shout to Bailey Excavating for that. And then moving on to 2027, as you know already, the radios are going to have to be replaced because. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Sheriff.
I'm sorry.
There's just a key item in 26, the jail enhancement, Sally Port and Booking Center.
Was that on yours?
It is.
Okay.
Is that, I thought maybe you meant put that in later years.
Supposed to be 2027.
Okay.
I apologize for that. I must have sent you the previous plan. This is the upgraded plan was for all of that to be in 2027. No, I appreciate that. I'm sorry that happened. So I'm just going to touch on the radios, then I'll get to the jail enhancements. Radios, what we're estimating at this point is 108 radios. I have my patrol operations lieutenant here, and he believes that we can cut that back to 70, right in the neighborhood of 70, which would be a significant cost savings for us. And I think we can do that legitimately too. Just keep in mind that the cars, that we'll have to have all the cars upgraded as well. So that cost will be an ongoing adventure if we in fact do the take-home cars, because we'll have to consider all of that as well. Right now, when we do a car, typically what we do is we just change the radio over from the car that we're retiring into the car that we're reissuing. So there would be some upgraded costs into that as well. Usually that's right between $15,000, right around $15,000 to get all those upgraded enhancements on top of the cost of the car. So moving on to the big one, and this is the jail enhancement. So there's a couple of different options here that we worked on to make a determination as to what would be best. And this was done with keeping in mind that, you know, what we have in the jail is a tremendous amount of liability, right? Specifically with people who are wanting to harm themselves, wanting to smuggle drugs in to the facility. And we did a study to try and make a determination as to how they're doing that and how we can thwart those efforts. Obviously, we have the canine, and we do a lot of searches around the buildings with the canine. And this is done because we have employed, for lack of better reasons or descriptors, is trustees. And the trustees will walk around outside of the facility, and they make phone calls, they make contacts with folks outside, and drugs get dropped off at locations where the trustees are at, and they surreptitiously pick it up, and then they smuggle it back into the facility. We know these things happen. So we go to these areas and we search them frequently. We keep really close eyes on them, but we're all human beings and we make mistakes and things can slip, right? So that's the kind of stuff that happens. That's how stuff is getting in that respect. We've already addressed the other area, which is the scanner. And that's people bringing it in body cavities, whether they're swallowing it or placing it in some place, and then bringing it into the facility that way. We believe that the body scanner will help thwart that. The next issue is weekenders. And this typically happens with people who are serving a mandatory sentence on a misdemeanor crime. And I explained this to you before, but just for clarity purposes, I'll tell you once again. You have somebody that's in for a drunk driving second. They have a mandatory 30-day sentence. They have employment. Judge doesn't want them to lose their job. They allow them to come in on Friday evening and leave on Sunday evening. And they serve the 2 days until they have their 30-day sentence satisfied. That person comes in. Right now, we have no place to put a weekender. We can't put them in general population. Well, I suppose we could, but it would be a tremendous amount of work for us to do that. We typically keep them isolated in our holding cells. And what they do is they bring in, they get bullied, different things happen, and they'll smuggle in drugs. One way, shape, or form, they'll be able to get them in. However, we believe the scanner is going to reduce that dramatically. It's still an opportunity, and it's still something that can be exploited. So our thought process in all of this is that if we had a separate weekenders dorm, which is what a lot of counties do, or a separate weekenders holding position, which is what a lot of counties do, then they won't have any interaction with trustees that may be able to help them smuggle it. They won't have any interaction with the general population that can bully them, and we'll keep them isolated away so that we can make sure that that doesn't get introduced into the facility and cause either an overdose, an accidental overdose, or an intentional overdose for suicide. So I think that would help us tremendously, and that's why the weekenders dorm is on there. The women's dorm on Channer Road, again, looking at it from a liability lens, we have, as you know, we have a men's dorm on Channer Road. It's a step down from the jail that we have on Wesley Street. We don't have a woman's. I think that's a huge issue. I think you guys believe that as well. That is why this is on here, looking at it from the standpoint of, you know, treating both men and women equally. We need a women's dorm in order to accomplish that. So that's why those two are on here. The Sallyport and Booking Center, I listed that number one. I skipped over it. I'll talk to you about it a little bit more now. Essentially, the Sallyport would be able to work as a weekenders dorm. If you recall in our last schematic drawings of how we would lay out the jail, this would be just the Sallyport portion of the Channer Road expansion proposal. What that is essentially is the remodeling of the A barracks from a barracks situation right now to an entire booking center with the addition of these holding cells on one end, which could occupy weekenders, and then it would also give us a Sallyport attached to that. So the booking center itself would have the isolation cells that we need to monitor people that come in that have suicidal ideations and people who come in that are drug addicted. So if you're not aware, when people come in that are alcoholics or addicted to other substances like drugs and different things of that nature, we're required to keep them in observation and do certain things to make sure that they're okay. We have 4 cells to do that right now, which is grossly under what we truly need. And if you recall, the study that we had done through our architectural group said we need at least 25 of these cells in order to be able to adequately serve the population that we have. And in talking with my staff, they completely concur. If we had all of that, we would be in really good shape. So this booking center would accomplish all of that. It would assist us in being able to monitor these people that we know need to be monitored, that we're statutorily required to monitor. And in addition to that, it would give us an offshoot so that we will be able to monitor people that are coming in on a weekend status, that are not staying for the full time, and not allow them to interact with general population. So that's the booking center, and it would be out on Channer Road. And essentially the way that it would work is anyone who has to be housed for pretrial detention, who doesn't make bond, because our booking is kind of a revolving door, you know, that people come in and they don't stay for very long. They don't go into general population. Think of your drunk drivers, domestic assault, things of that nature. They're in and out, in and out, in and out constantly. That could all take place over on Chanter Road. And if somebody is locked down on a more serious charge, you know, we would be able to transport them over to Wesley Street and keep them for pretrial detention over on Wesley. What I would do with our current booking center is essentially cause that to be a control center for Wesley so that you can monitor people coming in and out. We would still use it obviously for the secure transport of inmates going back and forth. I would probably encourage the Michigan Department of Corrections to use that more often for the secure transport of inmates over to the court. Right now, they park on Wesley Street, they get the inmates out, and they walk in through the general public doors, which is, I think we're dodging a lot of problems. We have dodged a lot of problems there that we may not be so fortunate in the future if we don't do something more proactively. So anyway, I would do that, and the holding cells that we have down there, we could still use them for transportation services in flux. So if we're waiting for somebody to come over from Channer Road, or if we're waiting for the van to take somebody from Wesley over to Channer Road, we could still use them in a control center setting. But everything else would be contained on the 2nd and the 3rd floors. And it would help us out tremendously with the way we are able to deal with our inmates and that population in that critical 48-hour time frame of when they first come into jail. So that's the Sallyport and Booking Center remodel. As you can see, I attached to this what our architectural group, which is different now. It used to be RQAW, it's now DCCM, so they sold to some other architectural company. So DCCM came up with this idea of what it would cost for us to accomplish all of that based upon the plans that we had before. And the estimation is anywhere between 10 and 12 million to get that accomplished. And that's turnkey 10 to 12 million on a booking center. The reason I pushed that off until 2027, I'll reiterate, is because I'm asking the state for funding, and I'm also asking the federal government for funding to help offset that 10 to 12 million. If so, is it palatable? Is it something that we would be able to do through capital improvements through the county? I guess that's the question I have for you, and that's kind of where I'm at with it at this point. I think this gets us one step closer. One of the things that I heard too, and then I'll stop talking. When we were promoting the jail millages, one of the things that I heard over and over again is, one, why isn't the state contributing, right? I don't know. I ask, but they don't give it to us. Why aren't the feds contributing? Again, same response. And then, well, why isn't the county contributed? So wouldn't it be wonderful if all three entities contributed to this and we were able to get this accomplished? I think that crosses all of those boxes. And I firmly believe that that was a sticking point for a lot of the voters. They felt like, oh, you're just throwing this on our backs when you haven't rolled up your sleeves and done enough homework to get this accomplished. And I think this does it. I think that pulls us through. With that, the women's dorm is a relative drop in the bucket. $300,000 is the estimate on it. But with that comes some operational cost increases that I'm not sure you folks would be willing to undergo right now. And I just want to make sure that you're fully aware of that. We would need at least 5 additional corrections deputies in order to man that. So I've got some ideas on how we might be able to offset that, but there's a lot of moving parts. So with the women's dorm, you need to know that if we did that specifically, if we did just that this year, for instance, we need 5 more deputies. So that would increase operational costs significantly and would go against kind of what we're talking about with this 5-year plan on capital improvements.
That'd be roughly what, $500,000 in labor costs?
It'd be significant, yeah. It'd be probably a little bit north of that. Yep. What I'd like to do is also have 24-hour medical. I think that's really important liability-wise, kind of keeping in with that theme. We're one of the only jails of our size. I think we're the only jail of our size that doesn't have 24-hour medical. And the reason why is we simply can't afford it. When we went over the ACH contract here just a couple of months ago, it was in December, when we talked about re-upping that, we got one whale of a deal on that. But that's only 12 hours of coverage every day. And we have a lot of medically compromised inmates that we need coverage for. So 24-hour coverage would be wonderful. And that's more of a pie in the sky goal because I know that would be significant in cost increase as well. Going to bid for new jail, I think it's important. We would need to do that in 2027 because I would just jumping through to 2028, 2029. I'd like to have some ideas on how we might be able to go forward with asking the voters again if you think it's necessary, because I do, to get a new jail. Then the gun training center. This is an idea that spawned over talking with other area departments and how it would be beneficial for us in our training consortium to have one singular training center. Now we can use Channer Road the way that it is right now, and we have been, but there's other ways that we might be able to accomplish that right over by our range. And so this is an idea that we're thinking about right now, and I would ask the community to assist us in the erection of a pole barn or something like a pole barn that we would be able to put our mat room in, which for our defensive tactics, and also use it for virtual reality training. There's ways that these virtual reality things work. I won't go into detail, but if you have a large open space, you can essentially use that in virtual reality training to be a house or be a field or be all sorts of different things, but you need a large open space to do that. And if we were able to get a pole barn out there, we would be able to accomplish that. So moving on to 2028, the new booking center would then likely be completed probably by October, November that year, if we're able to get that. And then obviously during all of this, we'll continue the transition to take-home cars if that's the board's direction. And then in 2028, we would also have to make a determination as to the jail and whether or not that's palatable by the board and how we're going to finance that. And I would likely think that it would be another millage attempt in 2028. So that's a lot. I've been talking a lot. Do you have any questions, thoughts, comments? Do you like the direction? Are there things that you think need to be changed? I'm open for any and all suggestions.
I'll give everybody a little bit of a history first on where all this came from and why you're looking at it. The Board of Commissioners were given direction, and the chair and vice chair were challenged back at the end of 2025 to get with the sheriff and the administrator controller to put together a capital list. And that's what you're looking at here. We met several times with the sheriff. I appreciate your input and the discussion that we had. And I would just want to make everyone aware that this is the list of things that we've come to the conclusion that are priority for our law enforcement to keep us to be a better enhanced and solid law enforcement for Jackson County. Vice Chairman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and kind of piggyback off what you just said, because you went through a lot of information, and anybody at home watching, I think at the end, what the taxpayers are going to hear is, oh boy, here they go, they're going to ask for a millage again. But this is clearly placing pieces of the puzzle of the jail that was in the last two, not the last two requests, but the two requests that were for the jail, not just the operations. It's going to potentially put the women's dorm, the operations center, or the booking center and the Sally Port would be off the table, and that wouldn't be on the taxpayers' backs. We'd be finding other funding sources before potentially looking into going down that route if and when we did in 2029. So it's that you've looked into other ways that we can slowly but surely do little things to make the situation better, and also, if the time comes to ask for a millage again, the burden be less on the taxpayer.
Correct.
Accurate to say?
Yes, and if and when, right?
Right.
I think that's the operable phrase is, is that something we want to do? This is definitely something that would help us. Now, I will tell you this, and I'm not suggesting that we go one way or the other, but I think it's important to recognize if we do move a woman's dorm out onto Channer Road, I think we have 47 ladies locked up right now. Typically, they're about 25% of our population at any point in time. They occupy cells on Wesley Street, and we are chronically overcrowded on Wesley Street. If you were able to take 30 of them, or 40 of them even, and reduce their footprint inside of Wesley Street to one small cell, you would open up a lot of additional pretrial cells inside of Wesley Street, which would assist us in continuing to operate. And I think would help out, tremendously in the future. Obviously, a new jail would solve all those issues, but this would at least continue moving us forward.
Yeah, each step makes you more efficient, so.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yep, absolutely. And it's important to, I would probably be asking you for other things as time goes along on Wesley Street. And I didn't include that in this list. Those costs would be nominal. For instance, when we got the scanner done here recently, I'm happy to tell you that I think the cost estimate for the construction was roughly $10,400. for the cutting of the hole and the placement and the building of a wall and all that kind of stuff. Well, learned that after we got the scanner, we didn't have to build a wall. We can just push the scanner right up to it and then close it that way. So that there was some cost savings there. I haven't recognized what they are yet because we haven't gotten our final bill. But what we do need to do is we need to take up the tile that's in our booking area and the tile that is in our holding cells. That stuff is ripping up. The inmates are able to use that as a weapon. That actually occurred on one instance, and fortunately, we were able to see it being hidden on that inmate's person and before anybody got stabbed. So those things need to be remedied as well. Those are nominal costs. I mean, from what we're talking about, big picture $1 million items, we're talking probably $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to do different little enhancements like that as time goes along. And I will ask you for those as time goes along because I do think they're important for operations. I'm not going to do any big things on Wesley Street. We'll fix the things that break as they break, but there are little things like that I think that are important for us to do as well.
Other commissioner comments? Commissioner Pileski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as to the Sallyport work out at Channor Road, if we were to eventually build the jail as we had contemplated doing when we were looking at the millage, that would be a phase of that project that we wouldn't have to do in the future. In other words, we're not going to have to redo it.
That's right.
Okay, so that's not really, it's not wasted money. It's moving a step toward something that we couldn't afford without having done a millage. If we move the women out to Channor Road, does that not relieve you of some staffing at Wesley Street?
That's a good question. No, because they're on our second floor, the ladies are. We have a deputy assigned to the second floor. So when we take those ladies off from the second floor, we still have to have that deputy on there. So they're not the entire second floor. They're just a portion of it. So like I say, they're about 25% of our population. So second floor also has on it many males as well. So we will still need to still need to man that floor with a deputy. So we can't displace a deputy from the second floor and put them out onto Channor Road. I think that's where you're going with it. That deputy has to remain there.
Well, I just wondered what the staffing situation would be were we to do that. And I think I'm correct in saying that in none of these plans do we abandon Wesley Street, which
Right.
we all know to be obsolete and dangerous in its design, even if it's well-maintained, even if we put a shine on,
The floors, for instance.
if we put a shine on, if we put a shine
Right.
on it, okay, it's still what it is, a 70-year-old obsolete, dangerous facility,
Right.
okay, that is lawsuits waiting to happen. Also, when we talk about the cars, I think you'll be well advised to take the term "take home" off of it.
Okay.
Call it asset deployment, call it whatever else.
Oh, I like that.
Okay?
Words matter.
We can convince the public all we want that this is the right thing to do, but the term is gonna screw it up.
Understood.
Okay? Just more
We'll wordsmith it.
more advice. It's wordsmithing. Sorry, it's politics, I guess, but the fact is that's gonna irritate the public.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other commissioners?
Yes, ma'am.
I know that the body scanner is new, so you maybe haven't seen many results, but I'm wondering, are we seeing any results? I mean, I know it's brand new. Have you been able to ascertain that somebody's bringing in contraband, or where are we at in that process?
Nothing that has been brought to my attention. So we just implemented it fully Friday. Do you know if there's been any, have you heard of any?
No, not yet. I can tell you though that the staff that are utilizing it says you can see everything. I mean, everything. Further questions? Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time we spent together on this.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Is Deborah gonna? Next item is policy 4040, reviewed by Deborah. No?
My screen went down. My screen went down. Can you pull it up? All right, I've got it. Thank you. Yeah, obviously, at our last meeting, it was long. We just looked at it in the sense that, the county board sits here, has these public meetings so that the county commissioners can talk to each other and discuss business, and that the public can witness that event, that you're doing business. It's not necessarily a meeting between the board and the public. It's a meeting between the board members so you can discuss and make decisions. Of course, the public's always welcome, and the public's always welcome to comment. But what I believe, what concerned me was that our public comment went so long that we put our business in jeopardy. It could have happened that we've had things that day, that evening, that needed to be approved, and for whatever reason, the meeting had to be adjourned, or something happened and we couldn't proceed. With that in mind, I'd like to change our policy to say, we'll continue with our 2 public comments, but legally, we can restrict our first public comment to business that's before the board. So if you have an item on the agenda and someone wants to get up and say, hey, I'm in favor, I'm not in favor, or whatever the case may be, or they want to get up and say, I'm interested in being on this committee, here's my qualifications, they can say those sort of things. But it's all, that first public comment, all related to the agenda itself. The second public comment, in the end, is the one where anybody can say anything and take, the 3 minutes as long as they need to. But what I would like to do is change our policy so that we'll, obviously draft if the board's so inclined and bring it back for Tuesday night. But the idea is, again, just that. Let's focus on the business of the board and get that accomplished. And then if we have 100 people who want to take a couple hours to tell us what they think, it doesn't affect business. We wouldn't have to somehow adjourn and not get our business done, which truly could cost the county money. There's deadlines on grants and different things that we run into sometimes, and we need to be able to make sure we get the people's business done. But that's what I'm looking for.
And the idea is to bring this through the committee system and everything?
Yep. I just want the board to have,
And
think
so
about it, discuss it.
So the only spot, so everyone understands what we're doing, is under the first public comment where we tell people they have 3 minutes to speak. They would only have 3 minutes to speak toward items that are on the agenda below them. The Verigy change order, strategic plan, the sheriff's 5-year plan, aviation maintenance resolution. There would not be a lengthy public comment, and I would then, as the person sitting here as chair, or Corey, if he was sitting here as chair, would direct the person from the public, if they're not doing that they're out of order, and that they would have to wait till the end of the meeting to do that. Does everyone understand what we're talking about doing? Is everyone comfortable with it?
No.
Okay, please go ahead.
I think normally our public comment has been fairly limited and has not been problematic until the most recent meeting. And I think that I would not want to sit in the chair's seat and have to rule people rule 60 people out of order who had come here to address a particular issue that wasn't even on our agenda. We can, in my view, we can tolerate an occasional lengthy meeting such as we had to tolerate this past month in the light of having everybody have a chance to vent their spleen on whatever interests them. So I would not be in favor of the change that's being suggested.
Next, Commissioner. Commissioner Bear.
Thank you, Chairman. If the meeting runs long, personally, I just make a personal commitment. I will stay here till it's done. When I signed up to run for commissioner, I didn't say that I was only willing to spend 45 minutes at a commission meeting. If it takes 5 hours, well, we'll take a break and bring food and drink in, and then we'll continue our meeting. So I see no reason why any meeting should be canceled. If we are reviewing policy 4040, I think there's more to review than just the public comment issue. If you look under item 2, we got subcategories A, B, C, D, E, F. Well, F reads controller or board chairman to agenda. That's not an agenda item. So what we have listed here as F shouldn't be F. F is just a continuation of the sentence, which is item E. So F should be moved down to awards and recognitions. G should be moved down. Every letter should be moved down. Unless you want to put on our agenda an item, controller of board chair to agenda, which I don't know what that would be. So it's just a formatting thing here. For all the years I've been on the board, this thing is set up. God, the screen just jumped. We don't go by designations A, B, C, D, E. We go by designations 1, 2, 3, 4. Now go back to 2025, item 1, call to order. 1A, Pledge of Allegiance. 1B was invocation. 1C was roll call. But then the first meeting in January 25, 1 is roll call, 2 is Pledge of Allegiance, 3 is invocation, 4 is roll call. So we're not following the policy, and we're not following a consistent format. So like most things, I would like to see some consistency. What way do we want to do it? We just changed our policy last month relative to how we vote, the rotation. We had never followed the policy, and so we changed the policy to reflect what we do. So I think there's more to consider on Board Rules 4040 than just community comment.
If I may, I don't disagree. In fact, we had not brought this for you to make any changes. We haven't made any changes to it. Our expectation is to redo and look at the whole policy for consistency and for errors and things like that. What I wanted to ascertain today was what the board, if the board was inclined to change up the public comment portion. We aren't reducing the length of the meeting. The meeting still could take hours. All we're doing is we're letting the first public comment be about business. The board goes ahead and discusses the business, approves the business or otherwise, and then you have public comment. Because in all honesty, if something were to got out of hand last week And next thing you know, there's people being arrested and all kinds of crazy things are happening. We would have probably adjourned the meeting without conducting any business that night, which could put us behind the 8 ball for a grant or some other project determination that we need to make. That's the only reason I asked it. It's not to reduce the length of the time of the meeting. All those people will get their chance to stand up there and say what they want to say for 3 minutes. That's really the difference there, is all I'm asking for.
Commissioner Kennedy, you had a comment?
I didn't, but I'll speak on it. It's the first I heard of this, but I don't necessarily have an issue with it because it's not infringing on free speech. Because as you said, the first public comment is germane to what the actual meeting is about. And the second public comment allows individuals to address other topics in the county that they want to speak about, or wherever, because we get people that just say random things. So I don't really have an issue either way. I can sit here and listen to it, but I definitely can see what the administrator's talking about. I've been involved in a township board where stuff can go sideways real quick and meetings, business doesn't get conducted, and then there's consequences for that. So I'd vote for it, but I'm also fine with keeping the way things are if other commissioners aren't comfortable with it. Thanks.
Commissioner Walls, and then I'll go to this end.
Thank you. I will be in favor of this for a number of reasons. One, we had similar incidences in townships that I represent where meetings are disrupted, meetings have to end early, they don't get through their agenda. There's a whole variety of things. We're still going to be leaving everybody the opportunity to speak at the end of the day. And as we noted, many of those people spoke and then left. So I have a variety of things that I would like to just give food for thought, but I'll wait till Commissioner Thing. But I am in support of the first public comment being related to business on the agenda, and the second one being related to anything they want. One thing that we witnessed is we had a gentleman to be appointed to a board, I believe your board, Corey. He sat here for almost 3 hours before he got the opportunity to introduce himself to us as a candidate for a board. We have a lot of trouble getting people to step up to the plate and say, hey, I'd like to volunteer for this board. We don't want to give them any means of discouragement. I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just thinking back over when I was a young man, I wanted to be a singer like my mother, but I didn't want to practice. And Mom was really good. And she let me know that her saying was always, that comes with the suit. If this is what you want to do, that comes with that suit. I think in the situation as far as public comment with us as commissioners and the time, I think that's just something that comes with the suit. I think we risk taking an opportunity away. There may be someone that drives from way out in the township somewhere that comes in. Maybe she's a senior citizen. Maybe she can't wait to the end of the meeting to give her comments. So I think it's a challenge to make sure that we're being considerate of everyone and giving them the opportunity to speak their voice. Don't get a lot of times when there are controversial issues. Yes, we may get a room full of people, but in my time here, I've only seen that just the one time. So I would vote against this. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my sentiments are similar to Commissioner Pileski and Commissioner Willis. I would, at this stage, would be voting no for the same reasons. Thank you.
Do you have marching
Mr. Chair,
orders?
if I'm in order.
Wait a minute.
Thank you. If I'm in order, I do have one quick follow-up question. Will this
Yes.
come back during general government?
Yes, that's the idea.
All right, thank you.
I think that revisiting it is appropriate, and the Board of Commissioners want to be able to share their opinion on it and vote it up or down. I think it's the marching orders that you've been given.
Agreed. And we'll clean it up to make it, we're going to be changing some other typos and things like that on there as well. So there'll be a change. If nothing else, at the end of the day on Tuesday night, you can approve Well, let's put it this way. There'll be, we'll clean it up, so you can always approve the agenda, and we'll leave the one item hanging. You guys decide whichever way you want to go and.
The committee can decide.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna wander through the whole process.
Yeah, yeah, put it out there.
We will pull our teeth and draw it all out as long as we can, Earl.
It'll be as painful as we want.
Correct. Okay, we've arrived at public comment. Guidelines, each individual will state their name for 2 minutes. And to address the board, you may only address the board once
City Hall.
under this public comment. Opportunity may not yield your time to other members. Seeing no public that's willing to speak, we are now at commissioner comments. Commissioner Walls.
Thank you. Regarding Tuesday night, I do have a couple of things I think as a board we need to think about, and one is safety. I understand that you haven't seen this perhaps here at the commission. I have unfortunately seen many issues in my previous life as an emergency room nurse. One of the things I would like to address is there is no egress for this board. That was closed, that was closed. If something went really south, there is nowhere for us to go. It's not a safe environment in terms of getting people out in a timely manner. How could we do that? Well, I've thought about that. If you reconfigure the room, that's a big expense to the county. If you put a temporary or a small hallway that you could exit out and go out that door over there, or some other egress. But I think we really need to consider, and maybe that's going to take sitting down with the sheriff or the state police and say, hey, do a safety evaluation here, because quite frankly, there are multiple lives up here that were at risk. Okay? The other thing is, I also believe that anyone that approaches this board without permission should be immediately asked to leave. That was not appropriate. It was not safe, and it just riled the crowd more. So I feel like if anybody approaches this board for whatever reason without permission, they should be asked to leave the building. I don't believe public should be allowed up on these steps. I looked over here, and we had people encroaching all the way up. They were beyond this platform. That's not safe. And quite frankly, I was pretty uncomfortable with all of it. And then lastly, I would like to say, as commissioners, I think we all need to really think about how our actions affect that crowd. The things that we say and the things that we do not only affect that crowd, but they're going to affect each and every one of us sitting behind this desk. So if we are irritating them or frustrating them, I can't tell you how many nasty emails I am still continuing to get based off of Tuesday night's meeting. And how many times the public has just been cruel based on what they feel is an aggravation from us. So I think as elected officials, we need to be professional and courteous and take into consideration not only the public, but the rest of the people that represent this board. Thank you.
Commissioner Bear.
Yeah, I'd like to reemphasize some of the things that Margie just went over. I did not like the people circling around behind me. I attempted to get the chair's attention so we could address it, but no matter how loud I got, I never got the chair's attention. So I decided to just address it myself, and I stood up and I told them to get down, get out from behind me. I don't feel safe with those people circling behind me. When things like that happen during meetings, I don't know how else to address it. I attempted to get the chair's attention multiple times. I got nowhere. So I dealt with it myself. And again, when people approach us and physically confront us, those people need to be removed. And for people to totally misrepresent what was going on and claim it was a peaceful protest, those people that try to claim that aren't in touch with reality. They need to see it shrink. Some of the people here are of the mindset that if they don't agree with me, they can attack me. I was personally doxxed, where I'm not on Facebook, but I have several friends that do, and they told me to be cautious because my home address was published on Facebook by some of the violent people. And people are being encouraged to come to my home. Now, if that's the way liberals want to act, then I don't need anything to do with them. When you let people keep on expanding their efforts to silence those they don't agree with, to the point where they're encouraging people to come to someone's home to peacefully protest, no such thing. That's going too far. That's indefensible. So it'd be offensive to me right now if somebody else stands up and wants to defend those actions. I've been approached by some people, emailed that they're willing to draft for me procedures on what could be constructed to make the board safer during these meetings. They said they're going to attempt to put a draft together and present it to the board for consideration. Not sure if they'll follow through with that or not. But that was a rare meeting. The only other time we had an overflow crowd like that was when it was the group supporting their Second Amendment rights. And that was a standing room only meeting. But nobody got violent and approached us. Nobody threatened me with emails and phone calls after that Second Amendment meeting. But they sure did after all the comments about ICE. So there's been several people that have phoned me and just irate, yelling, screaming, profanities, obscenities. I just tell them, well, I'm going to hang up on you and I'm going to block your number and you're never going to be able to call me again. So I do it. Emails have gone to all of us. People out there are upset, and they think because they are of one political persuasion, they get to demand things happen to people of a different political persuasion. So I guess they're not really in favor of freedom of speech, because we should all be able to say what we need. So it was a bad meeting. It should have been done differently, and I think we need to take some corrective measures to stifle that in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Probably out of all the commissioners, I've been in situations similar to that from the recall times out in Leone Township. And I can tell you some very simple solutions. Number one is positioning the sheriff closer to the diag. And anyone that approaches aggressively is removed immediately, zero tolerance. You can say what you want to say. I have no problem with that. You can email me, call me. I don't take issue with that. No problem. But when you approach me and you get in my personal space or another commissioner's, it's unnecessary and uncalled for. I kind of touched on commissioner comment when I came to the meeting, and there was a group down there as I was coming up the elevator. Individual approached me who I didn't know, who didn't live in my district, who began, basically she was just trying to get a reaction out of me by bringing my family up. It's no secret. You know, I married a Jamaican woman, and my children are multiracial. And anyways, she tried to get points out of me, and also, you know, almost like I couldn't get on the elevator. So I don't know what we do about that. That's we've got to come upstairs to the meeting. But at the meeting, definitely, no one should approach, no one should put hands on property or person. That's where the audience stays. This is where the board stays, period. The other thing I saw, there was one side that was unhinged, not all of them, but a good number. Probably in need of, I'm not even going to get into that portion, but shouting down other members of the public. And Mr. Chair, you did your best to try to let everyone be heard, but it was very obvious that the majority of the people who had come that night wanted one message to be heard, and they were going to drown out anyone else that had a differing opinion. That's not America. Right or wrong, the minority, the majority of a room or a voting block always gets to have their say. So whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, that's wrong. That shouldn't happen. So the same thing, after warnings are given, people that continue to interrupt people of their 3 minutes should be removed, which you eventually did, and I appreciate that. But I think those simple things, having the officer placed here, number one, closer to the podium, but also closer to commissioners, you take that idea out of that person's head, because the enforcement issue is there. And that's exactly what Leone Township did when things started getting heated. The Blackman Township officer actually in that meeting sat in a table that sat right by their board. And I think repositioning our law enforcement makes sense. We should have done it from the get-go, regardless if there's controversy. So that's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Entertain a motion to adjourn? Yes, just. Oh, go ahead, John.
Question, sorry, yeah, I agree with all of the commissioners that no one should be approaching commissioners at a table, but I do have a question for the chair in regards to protocol. I do feel that we had a sign that was provocative with the people that we had at that time. What is the protocol for that? Can we put what we want to put on the dais, or what is the procedure for that?
No, what should be appearing on the dais is your name, representation. We won't, if we're gonna do one thing, we can't do the other. Michael and I have talked about security. We've met with facilities. We're gonna seal the dais. We're gonna work towards taking care of other issues that we have, getting off, getting out of here, type deal, Margie. You know, the other thing we can consider doing is the Board of Commissioners could get up before the meeting starts. If we're looking at it, and we can leave and wait until such time as the room is cleared to go forward. I'm of the opinion, I want everyone to understand this, that you get your 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, and it should be 3 minutes. You get to speak. We're discussing, though, with our attorney, what is the safest and best practice, and that's what we'll be looking at going forward, and making sure that we keep everyone safe and keep what are the best practices going forward for that. And we will look at all organizations to give us that answer. So that is the direction on the way we're gonna go. I will pay closer attention to what's set up on this dais and make sure it's removed beforehand. No doubt in my mind. But we will go forward from here, and with the next meeting being another chance to see how we do. This is an experiment. It has been an experiment for over 200 years in representative government, and we're going to continue. I hate to say it, but this is not we've had more violent attendance at county commission meetings. You have to go back in the history to look at it, but, yeah, there were people removed. And on your, not to pick on the, amendment night, Second Amendment night, but we did get approached by an alcohol-induced person with a sidearm who threatened, bodily harm to commissioners. So that did go on. You were not made aware of it because it was handled. So that is the best that I can say about it. And that we will continue to learn is what we will do. I thank everyone for their understanding, and, yeah, we're gonna have some long meetings in the future, but given a chance, I'll also make us some short meetings. So, with that, we're adjourned.